Changing a bank into a hotel is not easy. It's very complicated. And this particular building that we're renovating, it was previously a bank. The building is over 125 years old. In the late 1800s, it started out as the New England building. And by the early 1900s, they were transforming it into Guardian Savings and Trust. One thing we got to remember, just to set the scene, in Cleveland at that time, Cleveland is booming. We got the industry, we got steel, we got oil, we got manufacturing, and Euclid, where the building is built, is one of the most wealthy streets in all of the country. If you've heard of Millionaires Row in East Cleveland, that's the same Euclid. We're at 6th in Euclid, and then Millionaires Row Euclid goes all the way out to East Cleveland or whatever. So Cleveland is booming, and this particular location is a very hot and wealthy area. And so at that time, the architects added the columns and the beautiful architecture, the ceiling, and all of these different architectural elements to make this a very beautiful building to go along with, again, the wealthy Euclid and all of that kind of stuff. So then you fast forward, in the early to like mid 1900s, the bank ends up transforming into a national city bank. So that's a little bit more modern times. You've probably heard of National City Bank. At that time, National City Bank was very popular, one of Cleveland's major banks. But in the 80s, National City moved to its own National City Tower down here in Cleveland, and so we had basically these older buildings, started struggling to compete with some of the newer buildings. Businesses, companies obviously wanted to be in newer buildings at that time. So that's what you had happening. So in the late 1990s, that is when they totally transformed the use of the building. Instead of a bank, now we're going to turn it into a hotel. And then that is when it became the Holiday Inn Express. In the 90s, Holiday Inn was a big deal. If you was going on vacation, you want to stay at a Holiday Inn or whatever. So and that conversion from a bank and like office space into hospitality living spaces created a lot of different complications. A lot of the requirements that you have to have for residential, or not even residential, but for people to occupy the space and sleep and all this kind of stuff, you didn't have to have when it was just a bank or an office. So that is where the complications begin. Fast forward to now, over the years, Holiday Inn as a brand declined. And so the owners basically are saying, hey, we're not going with Holiday Inn anymore. We want to go with AC Marriott. So therein brings us. So we are the construction management team to oversee the project from converting the old Holiday Inn Express, again, that came about in the 1990s, to the new AC Marriott, which we know is a more modern brand, more modern feel by Marriott. And we are finding a lot of the complications that come from a building being 125 years old. So one of the things that we also have to do is we have to sort of modernize this building, but also keep sort of the historic structure. As a matter of fact, this project is receiving tax credits because we are leaving a lot of the original or historic elements in place. I will take you up on the 11th and 12th floors, which are those historic floors. The ceilings are very high. The floor is a different material, so we have to keep and preserve a lot of that. Another thing that we have to keep is the wall base, the historic, beautiful wood wall base that we have to keep, refinish it, spruce it up a little bit, but we have to maintain that design again as part of the historic element of the building. So all of these things, again, make construction a lot more complicated, being that, again, we're dealing with an older building and we're trying to convert it, but still keep a lot of the old historical elements. A couple of the reasons why it's difficult is all of the systems. For one, plumbing. The plumbing systems that we used back in the day, compared to the ones that we use now are night and day. You have a bunch of cast iron piping. Now we're trying to change to PVC. We have older HVAC units that we need to update. Structurally, a lot of this stuff is original. When we have opened up the ceiling in some of these rooms, we're finding speed block. If you don't know what speed block is, that like hollow clay type of block that they used again in interior commercial construction just to make everything stronger. The ceiling heights are different and not consistent throughout, makes it a little bit difficult in trying to plan. Because again, all of our electrical, plumbing, sprinkler lines, all of that kind of stuff. Hell, back then they didn't even have, as an advanced fire sprinkler system as we have now. You know what I mean? Like those orange pipes right there. I don't know if you can see, but those are the sprinkler lines, and those are a must. We won't pass any inspections, and we won't be able to open up this hotel unless we get that right. Older buildings basically used stronger, more durable construction materials, but also a lot of them end up being toxic. For example, asbestos and lead. So when we were removing the floor in the bathroom is right here. When we were removing the floor, we found some of that black mastic, which has asbestos in it. So we had to stop and pivot and do asbestos remediation. Again, back in the day, we used asbestos because it was a strong building material. Older buildings are also not designed for modern technology. So we're gonna have, all of these different lights and refrigerator and all of that. So we're having to run, if you look right here, that is where the the electricians have marked up. We have to cut out right there to add in additional wiring to accommodate, some of these new modern things. We gotta have ADA rooms, sight rooms, hearing rooms. So it is a very complicated process. I've never built a hotel from the ground up, but as I talk to some of my colleagues and partners here, they're telling me that it would be a lot easier to build a hotel from the ground up than it is to renovate an older building, especially one that's over 100 years old. It's kind of cool though when you think about it. It's like this building has survived so many different generations, so many different iterations of the city of Cleveland, of downtown Cleveland. Think about how many people have literally have stood in this room where I'm at since 1895 when it was built. So there are some aspects of it that make it cool. Most people, they look to see the finished product. This whole process of how we get there can sometimes be boring, but for me, it is very cool to take this black room. I will do a video in this exact room. This is 1403. When we finish and we have all new flooring, all new wall covering, this room will look totally different. It'll look like it belongs in 2026. And that's the beauty of construction, even though it can be complicated at times, is to walk through the process and turn something into something brand new that looks beautiful and that people can use and enjoy.